inherit a legacy where we have seen tenants occupying the place. So it's more of a mental block kind of a situation.
I think it is resolvable. All the three problems that we talked about, with the REITs coming in, the funding can become easy. And it could also be one way of getting the ECB kind of funding into the focus, right? The second is the FSI, can resolve this problem. And I think laws, they just have to be made stricter. You should be able to get a bailiff and throw him out. And in 2 months' time, not the 20 years that we're talking about. I think with that, the rental housing can become a major. In fact, it's going to reduce the pressure on the other housing, because if rental housing is available, the demand which is there, the craze which is there, the euphoria which is there, to buy the place. Why? Because he's not getting something on rent. May not be that. Today also, if somebody decides to rent as opposed to buy, he can do it for a fraction of the cost. Because the rental yields are what? 3, 4%, 5%?
So, just from a Bombay's perspective,
Yeah.
You talked about 1/3 of the floating population wanting rental houses. Problem in Bombay is your 2/3 of population still doesn't have houses for itself that you can cater to the 1/3 of the population.
Yeah.
So I think the bigger challenge is first how do you solve the problem of 2/3 of the people? Because if you start creating rental housing stock, in spite of and not taking care of the 2/3 of the population, you'll see pricing going even higher.
No, I agree with you. It's not either or. I'm not saying that we have to do one or the other. I think
A
the
mix
need of
both.
the hour is that we should do
Yes.
both. Add to the supply and create the rental housing, because that's a completely separate segment.
It's a completely
And
separate
there are 2-3 aspects to this. One is the floating population. The second is people who cannot afford to buy, but they can afford to rent. And third are those people who don't have enough security to offer for the housing loan. Therefore, he wants to rent. Take a carpenter. He's just making whatever 20,000 rupees a month, but all in cash, is not filing any return of income. Who is willing to lend him? Nobody. There is no microfinance agency which will.
But are you suggesting rental residency only in the lower income group or across the board?
I am saying across the board, the way it operates all over the world.
All over the world.
I'm not saying that do anything different, because the requirement is there also at the top level.
Okay.
Yeah.
My next question would it be feasible before REITs is allowed?
I think the funding issue, the developers are used to solving whether the REITs are there or not.
Okay.
So with the business model where they're allowed to sell,
Yeah.
not with the
I mean,
rental
if they
model.
can create commercial office space, they can create rental housing stock.
Mhm.
I understand the returns are
I
different,
think
but once
that's
the
where the
FSI
aspect of
is
returns comes into play.
addressed.
I want to share with you one simple example about if you go abroad, you can just take a car on rent from the airport, any car from Amazon, and so many companies are there, and you drive to whichever destination you want to. Okay, can you think of doing it in India? All those companies which came, they said, no, we cannot give the car even if you give the deposit. So that is the problem. It's not just about
Good example.
the funds.
But this is again on the implementation of legal aspect.
Yeah, security, they don't
Yeah.
they'll get the car back or not.
That was an interesting take, but I would say that can be again is
But
resolved.
you know what, the rental houses that he was speaking about in the US, they are protected very strictly even in terms of maintenance.
Yes.
I know my friends, they use it like their own home, because if I spoil anything,
Penalty
I'll be
clause is
paying
there.
through my nose. I think the aspect he's talking about is the human aspect. How many laws will you implement if there is something to be corrected at the mindset level? I think that is the point that he was trying to
I
make.
went to UK, I got a car, I went to Scotland for 10 days and came back. I was thinking that I can't do it in India. So in Jaipur, I thought that let me take a car on hire. I said, whatever deposit you want, you take it, okay? I want to drive the car. I said that whether you want to drive or in India, you will not get a self-driven car on rent. But in out your property, are you sure you will get it back?
In fact, it should be easier because the car, you can leave it in Scotland also.
Yeah.
You can take it in London.
You can't leave your house somewhere.
Yeah. House you can't do that.
You can't carry your house.
Shall we move to the next one? I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
unless you want to add something. Atul, go ahead. No? Okay. I think it's an issue which is a burning issue which is not getting enough attention from the government, and I feel that through your medium, you can bring it into focus that rental housing is important for this country, and therefore, if something is being done, there are only 3 problems to be handled, unlike the development where you have plethora of problems to handle.
Yes.
So if these 3 problems are kind of addressed, we can surely create rental housing and the change of mindset that Jumal brought about. Shall we talk a little bit about funding of developers, or we've covered enough and you want to kind of?
I think we can sum it up with funding issues, because whatever we have discussed, funding issue is a major challenge for all these things. So you can.
I think most of the issues we have already taken, whether they be receivables or funding or the ECBs. I think.
I want to summarize in this way that let's assume that you're a new developer. What are the options before you? One is to go to the public and raise capital. It's an option which is not available today for all practical purposes, because the stock market is not in a mood to take a newcomer and raise money. So IPO is out of question. Go to a bank and borrow money. The bank is saying, I will not lend against land, I will only give you against construction, etc., etc.
And that too, there's a restriction, the number of and the amount you can give.
So lots of restrictions, and therefore you're not able to do it. You go to a PE fund, 2 things happen. Firstly, their expectations are very high. I'm sure you face that, right? And secondly, if you have to remunerate somebody through the route of dividends, it's a very expensive way of doing it, because dividends come from after-tax money, and there is a dividend distribution tax which has to be paid before you can pay out that money.
It's corporate tax plus dividend distribution.
So 50% goes out before you can remunerate your investor, and therefore his expectations become even higher.
In a PE perspective, very limited players in the market
True.
who actually have funds available today and are willing to invest.
True. Also, there is a major difference that needs to be addressed to get this money. All the equity mutual funds, which are mutual funds, have a pass-through provision. What that means is that if an income is passing through that entity, there's no tax to be paid. The tax is paid only at 1 level, not 2. That exemption does not apply to mutual funds which are set up for real estate. It's a major thing, That pass-through provision is not available, with the result that the taxation gets twice over, and therefore what reaches the ultimate investor is minuscule of what is earned. I think if this problem is addressed, then again it can provide some relief for the developers. But today, one of the reasons why PE funds are expecting huge returns is because of these leakages which are there in the system. The fourth way in which developers raise money is through sales. If they've sold something and they're going to receive the balance amount, they're able to kind of mortgage the debtors and get that money, right? So debtor discounting.
That is when the pre-sale is not available.
Not the pre-sale, but even after sales, whatever debtors are there.
Discounting, 80-20 kind of scheme.
Yeah. Now, I think a lot of developers are taking advantage of that. Partly also misuse, because there are developers who haven't sold flats and they're still getting discounting against receivables to be created. Okay. Now, I don't want to talk about it. I'm sure you guys.
Even pre-launch is happening. Pre-launch is also happening.
Pre-launches also happen, but here what I'm talking about is all over the world, when you sell a product and you create a receivable, you are able to get money against it from a bank. But you never get it before you created that receivable.
Yes.
But there are developers who are able to get money, not against a pre-launch, but against pre-sales.
Pre-sales.
In the hope that you will create a receivable, you are kind of doing it. We can go into the legalities of it or otherwise, but that's one way in which some of the developers have funded themselves. The fifth is quasi-equity that we talked about briefly, and subordinated debt, what is called internationally, is one way of kind of funding this. There are also convertible debentures and those kind of forms which are applied, and through that you are able to do it. Am I missing out any other? These are 5 or 6 ways in which a developer is kind of. Now what happens is that it's like a chakra vihu. When all the doors are closed, what do? You stop work. You're not able to go to the stock market. The banks are saying no. You're not able to sell, so there are no receivables. If you go to all of this and if you're not able to raise money, the progress of work suffers. And at least I don't know about you guys, but I've seen a slowdown in a lot of construction. Why? Because they're just drying up, and the funds are drying up, and there's no more money to create that product. Particularly in commercial office space and retail space, more than residences, where this kind of a
Definitely commercial space.
commercial office space. There is nothing like pre-leasing of commercial space. You have to create the space, then you can lease it. In the anticipation that it will be leased, the facility is not available. So I think these are some of the things, and any other thoughts you want to contribute to about funding of developers?
I think these are the main factors, and whatever funding is also available, like you mentioned, private equity, debt. It's not that it's completely available at a given cost. It's not like construction finance is available in 14% and humongous is available. Private equity is available at 23-24% and humongous is available. There's a very small quota, very restricted people can get it, and they're very choosy about it. So I think that's the other big challenge is, how do you create more supply out of that?
We talked about the DC rules, so I think that has been done. Any other topic you want to take up? Real estate index, in case you want to talk about it. Atul, you want to talk about the real estate index and the infrastructure index that recently has been announced, and how dependable they are, and
I think it's not really going to work for a simple reason. In any location, you'll find 2 developers developing their project. One is cost at X, he's selling at X, and another person is selling as 2X. So there is a lot of variation in each project depending upon the location and depending upon the amenity, depending upon who is the developer,
Stage.
the goodwill, and
Stage.
stage at which it is. So unless and until we take all these parameters into account, it will not have any impact. It will not be realistic.
So even I think the business plan of a particular developer, you have developers who work on volume. You have developers who
work on
do
margin.
projects, who do 2 projects in a year. So a person who works on volume, he will always want cash flows. His selling price will be much less aggressive as compared to a person who has to do only 2 projects. So even the kind of developer who's developing makes a lot of difference.
No, those who have created their brand value, they have a premium on that. That what one can understand.
Even business plan,
Yeah.
business plan of a particular developer.
But the core issue is whether for an end user, those available residence data are reliable.
I've not had a chance to look at it, but
Actually, in my view, the absolute data may not be reliable because of the cash component and stuff like that, which is not getting built into the price. But if you look at comparison between two periods, it might be a little more representative. Whether the prices have gone up or down between two periods, because the defects are present in both the periods, and therefore the comparison between periods, can at least give you some.
I think you can get an
Yeah.
idea of the range of what the pricing can
Yes,
be.
so for anybody who is looking at Residex for an analysis, long-term analysis, that can be an option. But what I find, where I find this whole process not working is for an end user who is looking, who is on a house hunt. I mean, I have my doubts whether he can make an opinion out of those figures. Because as you rightly said, two different projects in the same micro market or within the same micro market in front of each other can have different price pattern.
I think RES index can give you a range of pricing. It will always differentiate, but by looking at that, you will at least get a price band, that what the pricing can be between. That is one thing which you can get an idea of.
And as he said correctly, that if you want to compare between two periods, the fallacy is in both the figures. So at least we can see.
Yes, that how prices have moved up or down over a period of time.
So that brings to the focus the core issue of what can be the ideal way of monitoring it.
Again, I'd like to fall back on my international experience to some extent. If you want to buy a property, say in Atlanta, where I was connected with buying a property for my daughter, you just go into that area and all the transactions that have taken place on the area is available to you in a very transparent fashion
From the registration.
from the registration data. It's all uploaded,
Yes.
and for the whole country it is available.
Yes.
So even if you are moving from here to New York or somewhere or Washington, and you want to be in that particular area, you will get full information of all transactions that have taken place, when they've taken place, what were the defects. Like in one place I saw that the land was contaminated. It showed up.
Even for the same property for last 20 years history, it will give
History.
you that
Yeah.
it was sold for how many times and at what rate.
So there are 2-3 things which happen. One is titles. What you are buying, you know who was the owner. Secondly, if there are any defects, you are getting it. Here also we have a mechanism of DP remarks, what is called. You go to a municipal corporation for any property, they are supposed to give you DP remarks, development plan remarks. But we find that we get more confused looking at DP remarks. Then as a help to this, like the environmental issues or ULC issues, there are so many acts which are kind of having an impact on that, and the DP remarks may not kind of throw out all those issues.
Sorry to interrupt, one very critical difference between transaction in India and outside the world is that there you have to go through a legal expert. You cannot just go and buy the property like that, you pay a token amount and buy the property. It has to be a solicitor or a legal advisor to which you buy the property. So both the sides' positions are very clear. Legally they are safeguarded.
And you don't even get to see the face of the seller.
Maybe not.
No, but in India, even if we assume that we are going for due diligence, the issue comes is the benchmark of due diligence. What is your? You will go to municipal corporation to find out if there is any land title
So
dispute.
you will go to a lawyer who's supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Right. But we have seen the lawyers going wrong. Do you mean to say that those 500 flats which were constructed, right, and sold to people, they did not go to the lawyer until they found that they were told that this is built on forest land?
Forest land.
That's a mistake on the part of the government. The
Okay.
government couldn't realize it.
I can tell you that in my office, I have the map of Bombay, which is 40 years old. And that particular area is not shown up as forest area. And this is a map from the government. Okay. Now, how is that person buying the flat supposed to know that he's doing something wrong?
There's a difference in the reports of the central government and the state government.
Yeah.
That's where the problem is.
So when you have
The same problem applies to developers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when we buy land, we don't know.
no, but
This
at
is
times
land, it's a
development
land,
developers have bought land knowing everything, that the way we saw it in Noida extension,
Hmm?
they knew it everything.
Yeah. But
To rely on government data eventually. for
how
us
did
also
the
to make a
developer
decision.
get the land in Noida? He bid for an auction and got it.
Yeah, and he got it from the government.
Right?
Yeah.
He got it from the
The
government. You see, एक बार कपड़ा लॉन्ड्री में जाके आया ना, it is clean.
Yeah.
The builder is paying
Now-
that value assuming it's a clean title.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the government is giving it to him.
True.
No, but that is the public posturing. But we all know in Noida extension inside a story, how things worked out. So, see, you have a problem of getting legitimate land titles also. It can be manipulated, it can be genuine, but what will you do if you get to know after a decade or two? So this is where the question comes, whether all these residecs and all these things are of any use or not.
No, no. Take the example of an Indonesian company coming and buying land in one of the states. I wouldn't like to name. They're acquiring land with the help of the government. And then when they try and take possession, they're told that you can't take possession of this land. Okay? Do you want to say that foreigners go to stay in this country? They've written off millions of dollars and gone away. He checked the titles. His lawyers do the due diligence. You know, the state government was with him when he got that land. You know, only to be told later on that sorry, we are not able to resolve this problem with the farmers, and therefore the land has to be returned to them, and we cannot give it to you. So I think these are issues which are very, very peculiar to India. Abroad also there are issues sometimes which come up like this, but the uncertainty part is extremely high, which puts off the foreign investors. Because
Yeah, and you know, these problems get magnified in the eyes of foreign investors.
Yeah.
And believe me, they keep track of all of this, and this is their
This is a major
perception
debt
of
trap.
the Indian market. This is how they see it.
This is a
Part
major
of the
debt
risk
trap.
the real estate industry
Yeah.
has to face.
Absolutely,
That's what we are
absolutely.
taking so much risk. If at all we expect some returns,
Absolutely.
we should not be looked down.
So I think by the
It's
end
not
of
like
the
manufacturing,
I think
it's
by
a
the end of the
lifestyle.
discussion,
The
Yes.
developers point of view, I believe.
I think by the end of the discussion we have started agreeing on everything.
no, I think what he's saying is very true, and I think I'd like to compliment Gaurav. Unless there are people like Gaurav who are willing to kind of address the issue of slum rehabilitation, so to say, which the government has not effectively been able to do. I mean, you're talking of 55% being occupied by slums. It will become 60 and 65 and 70 and
You know, what's more important than 55% is 45% of developable land of Bombay is occupied by slums.
Yeah.
So you have only 55% of actually developable land which is not occupied.
So I think, like you said, it has to be incentivized because the kind of risk they are taking are very different from the kind of risk that Atul may be taking or any other developer may be taking. And this problem needs to be solved. Everybody agrees it needs to be
Yeah.
addressed. So shall we, on that note, wind up?
Yes.
Thanks to the two of you. I think excellent contribution from two of you, and a lot of experience and a lot of stories, both horror stories and otherwise, have come to surface. So that's really wonderful. I think you have a helicopter view of the whole thing because you talk to so many of these developers and hear good stories, bad stories
Yeah.
from
See,
them.
I've been very modest to say I'm just a student, I don't need.
No, no.
There's a lot of value on me.
No, no, if you can say you're a student after 6 years, you know, I can also say I'm a student after 22 years, but
Yeah.
but I think which is true of most of us. And
Because you have a very important role to play.
Yeah.
As being part of the media,
Yeah.
where changing the perception of the industry, and that
I
can
mean-
be done only through the media.
Absolutely.
Thank God you stopped about reducing, I mean,
Yeah.
talking about reduction in prices
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you knew that, you know,
yes,
it wasn't true, so.
yeah,
Can we come for a photo shoot?
Anything you want to add to this or?
No, I think you have summed it up very well. I just hope that maybe by the end of the year we will meet again. Maybe we will have this time another round of discussions in Mumbai. Maybe with a larger panel this time, because this was just a small beginning. Next edition we are trying to raise the bar. As you rightly said that this industry needs a Bible kind of thing. So we are focused on that. We want to create something where the entire industry wants to be present in it.
Whatever help you want from my end, because I'm a little active in FICCI, as you know.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to you on this.
I also happen to be on the management committee of IMC, where we've taken this up very seriously.
Mhm.
And as of 1st of July, I'm on the World Governing Council of RICS in London.
Okay.
So, you know, whatever is happening in India will fall under that group as well.
By any chance, are you coming to Delhi?
I can come to Delhi, but I normally do a morning evening thing.
Okay.
FICCI की meeting के लिए आता हूँ,
हाँ.
but I can certainly kind of plan
Okay.
a visit. There's no
What I will do is that next week I will give you a call. Same nature of complaint against Unitech, and they dismissed it saying that this cannot be the product category, and also the fact that on the basis of the available document in the public domain. So we have done a critical study on that. So I personally feel that within the industry body also you will find lot many changes, because larger players are understanding that they have to come forward. Earlier what was happening was that small time developers were getting into the industry body, and larger developers had this thing that हमारा कोई मतलब नहीं है.
See, if you look at, I mean, you know, the way the industry is abroad, there is strong lobby. And I always wonder that, you know, given the kind of monies that there is in the sector, black, white, whatever, you have the capacity to be a strong lobby.
I think earlier people didn't feel the need to go
But
through
then-
that.
Yeah, it
There has
wasn't
to
so
be unity.
complex, yeah.
There has to be unity.
Unity, and I think
Yeah.
Sometimes there is lack of unity.
Yeah, I was part of, I attended the CREDI conference a couple of months ago, and they were stupid enough to let the media stay for what was the builders forum, when they were complaining to Mr. Jain about whatever problems they were facing, and whatever, it's an outsider's perspective on the lack of unity in the community itself. So yeah, I saw it like up front. It was a little amusing, but it's also a
As you
reality.
said correctly, there is a lack of unity and even lack of interest.
But yeah.
Yes, larger players are
we
we are
don't
least
feel the
bothered.
need, you know. We don't
Yeah.
feel the need.
Yeah. That's true.
Right, sir, please come for one photo session this side. Screen इधर आ जाओ.